everyone, I'm Tara. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about mantras. So singing mantras, speaking mantras, thinking them, all the mantra things. I like to share with you guys different yoga practices that we don't often think about but that are super powerful. And mantra is one of those powerful ancient practices that I've been loving lately, so I was really inspired to talk about this today. To start this mantra video, I think we first need to learn about the origin of this practice. By understanding the roots of a practice and where it came from, we could really start to uncover its meaning and its purpose, right? Because we want to know why we're doing things and why we're practicing them. Mantra is basically repeating a word, a sound, or a phrase to help you focus. And mantras are thought to have originated even before written history, so they were originally just passed on by word of mouth. The earliest mantras are found in scriptures called the Vedas, and if you don't know what the Vedas are, they're the world's most ancient spiritual texts, and they also happen to be the source of many of yoga's traditions. Yoga, the Vedas, and Hinduism all originated from the same time and from the same place, which is why there's so many similarities between yoga and Hinduism, because they both incorporate wisdom from the Vedas. Even though there's similarities between the two, the difference is that yoga is a spiritual practice and not a religion. Yoga is really about turning your attention inward and looking within yourself to explore your spirituality. And that's why all are welcome to practice yoga, no matter your religion, culture, or background. Mantra is one of the ways you can practice yoga to work to illuminate your connection with your highest self, which is what yoga is really all about. I've talked about this in other videos. Yoga is about finding connection. It's really not about improving flexibility. It's a bonus that some practices that you do might improve your flexibility at the same time, but that's not the true point of the practice. So mantra has been around for a while, and considering how long ago it did originate and that it so far stood the test of time, I'd say it's a pretty powerful practice. Next, let's look at mantra's origins and mantra today. So as discussed, mantra was first found in the Vedas, and this is a very old text from India. This text is written in Sanskrit, and Sanskrit's a very old language. If you practice types of yoga like vinyasa, you may be familiar with hearing Sanskrit words, as many yoga poses are named in Sanskrit. So, for example, a common pose that you may hear in Sanskrit would be Chaturanga Dandasana. In English, this pose would be called four-limb staff pose. For some reason, this is one of the poses many yoga teachers really only use the Sanskrit name. Another example would be you might hear warrior pose called warrior pose, or you might hear it called Virabhajasana. Virabhajasana is warrior pose in Sanskrit. So Sanskrit is used a lot even in vinyasa practices. Mantra itself is a Sanskrit word. So when you break the word mantra into parts, the first part is derived from a word that means mind, and the second part of the word means protection or instrument. So you could think of mantras as an instrument for the mind. So the instrument being your voice, and it's changing the focus of your mind. Mantra brings your mind away from the mundane and leads you to connect with your highest state of being. So this is how mantras work, and the vibrations of your voice are changing the perception of your mind and helping you see through Maya, which is another very old yoga concept, which I've already talked about in another video, so you could find that up here, or I'll also link it down below. Getting back to the origins of mantra versus today, many popular mantras or chants are in the language of Sanskrit, as this is their origin. But with that said, you can say a mantra in any language. It doesn't have to be Sanskrit. Remember, the definition of mantra is repeating a word, a sound, or a phrase. So there's nothing saying that the word needs to be in Sanskrit, although Sanskrit words are a little extra special, which we'll get back to. If you prefer to use English or any other language, that's totally fine, and using your native language can be helpful if you're trying to work to invoke a specific quality. So like if you're trying to work to increase your confidence, you might find more success by saying, I am confident in English, if this is your native language, as opposed to saying it in Sanskrit. So saying it in English may have more meaning to you and may help the mantra resonate with you more. If you do choose to use Sanskrit, it can give your mantra practice a little extra boost, and this is because Sanskrit is a vibrational language. So this means the sound of Sanskrit words actually expresses their meaning. What this means is the sound of the word is basically describing its essence. This may be why it's not always straightforward when translating Sanskrit to English. Sanskrit words really do have deep meaning, which makes this language so beautiful and intricate. The more you do practice mantras in Sanskrit, the more you'll actually feel their power within your entire being. And if you're feeling skeptical about this, I was too when I first learned to chant in Sanskrit. I didn't really understand what a vibrational language even meant, but I'll tell you, I've felt the power of this language, and it's really something incredible. The more you work with a specific Sanskrit chant, the more you'll actually feel its effects within you. Your entire being literally starts to recognize the higher vibration and starts to tune into this frequency, leading you to feel this overwhelming sense of peace, bliss, joy. It's just really beautiful, and it's really something that has to be experienced. So I do recommend trying out some Sanskrit mantras. There's so many Sanskrit chants out there, so you could find one that resonates with you. If you do want to learn more about Sanskrit chants, there's a great source. It's a book called Sacred Sound by Alana Kaivalya. I'll link it below. There's a lot of traditional Sanskrit chants in there, and it explains their meaning, so that's a really good source. You could also look up mantra music or kirtan on Spotify, and you can kind of listen to mantras that way. I also do have a mantra practice within my 7-day yoga experience, which is totally free. And there, in our mantra practice, I teach you one of my favorite Sanskrit chants, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So I teach you how to say it, what it means, and then we meditate with it. So I'll link that below as well. So just some options on how you could explore and learn about these Sanskrit chants. So I want to talk to you about using your voice, because your voice can really help you break through barriers and help you reach higher states of consciousness. I think this is an important point because so many of us underutilize our voice for whatever reason, but it's a tool that we have and we should use it. By using your voice through mantra, you're allowing energy to flow through what is called the throat chakra. And the throat chakra allows us to express our true selves. When the energy in this area is balanced, not only will we ourselves feel uplifted, but we'll be able to uplift others. And mantras can be really powerful for us introverts who tend not to use our voice as much. At least I know that from personal experience, but I also think it's powerful for extroverts because with mantra, you're using your voice in a different way than you would in everyday life. This is particularly true in regards to chanting in Sanskrit because by speaking these words, you're connecting with something greater than you. You're speaking positive, uplifting words that your mind and soul really deserve to hear. And when they do hear these words over and over again, they start to respond to them and you feel their power within you. If you're someone who has difficulty meditating by just sitting quietly, I highly suggest giving mantra a try because it gives your mind something to focus on. And since the focus is on a single word or phrase, it's still keeping you in the present moment just like meditation does. So this can be really helpful for anyone who finds difficulty in quieting their minds and sitting for meditation. Doing mantra could be another option. And lastly, when looking at how mantras work, we have to look at the power of sound and vibration. The vibrations of mantra and using your voice, whether chanting or singing, can help you tune or align your energy and bring your entire being back into balance. With our voice, we're basically bringing our body and mind back into tune. This tuning can happen with a variety of mantras, but the easiest and simplest mantra that you could use for this is Om. So if you've practiced yoga before, you're probably familiar with chanting Om. Om is a simple yet very powerful chant or mantra. It brings you back into balance. It reminds the body, mind, spirit of their connection with everything around you. So that's a really simple one that you could start with. While I do highly suggest speaking or singing mantras in your practice, mantra can also be performed quietly in your head. You don't have to say them out loud. So if you don't feel ready for speaking them out loud, this is a great place to start your practice. So even though the vibrations of mantra are powerful, the repetition of the words is also part of how mantras work. So repeating a single word or phrase is keeping you focused on one specific thing, which allows the body and the thinking mind to rest. So based on this fact, mantras will still provide their power even if they're said silently. Another suggestion I have for you when practicing mantra, and this is how I like to practice, is start by saying your mantra out loud. So you're repeating your mantra out loud. Then you're gonna move into silence and continue repeating the words in your head. And then you can move into complete silence in the mind and basically just let the mantra go and just sit in meditation and feel the effects that the mantra has provided for the mind, the body. This is personally how I tend to practice mantra, and I do find it to be really effective. I hope this video has helped you understand how mantras work and has inspired you to give mantras a try and to add them to your yoga practice. There's so many mantras out there. Don't be afraid to try out different ones to find which one resonates with you. Whatever mantra you do choose, it really should make you feel good and uplifted. So that's all from me for today. Thank you for being here. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button right below me, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.